Perfect. Thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. Right. I'm just here to say hi. So, my name is Caroline. I'm going to be hosting today. We're going to go through some slides, but I'm also going to answer any questions that you have. So, please fire them at me through the Q&A in the bottom of your screen, and I'll try and answer them as we go. We'll get started. We'll just wait for another couple more people to join, and we'll get started in a couple of minutes. So, just hang tight. Okay, welcome everyone who's just joined. I'm going to switch to sharing my screen now, and I look forward to going through all of this with you. I just wanted to say before we start that if you are listening, then that probably means that you're worried about money at the moment, or you're listening because you have friends or family who are worried and you want to be able to help them. So I'm going to do my best to give you all of the information that we have right now on the financial support that is available to you. As I say, you have the ability to ask questions. There's a little Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So please do use that if you have any questions. I'm also recording this. It will only record me. It doesn't record you, so you don't need to worry about it from a privacy perspective. But if you do have questions as we go, please do ask them, because I'm sure that other people in a similar situation will also have questions, and that could help them. So we'll get started. So, as I said, we're going to go through all the money help that is available to you right now. As you know, it's difficult because things are changing all the time. So I'm going to give you as up to date as I can, and then I'm going to give you access to where on our Lifetise site you can find information that we're updating constantly. Okay, a little bit about us. So what is Lifetise? Who are we? We are a financial technology company, and we help people plan how to afford their life goals. So in times which are better, we help people with things like planning how to afford to buy a home or how to afford to start a family. What we've realized is that as things are happening right now, many people need help just on how do I cope financially. Maybe my income has gone, I'm worried about losing my job. So our mission at Lifetise has always been about helping people to be more financially secure. So what we've decided to do right now is to pool all our resources and help you find the support that you need during this crisis. Okay, we're going to focus on two things. How do you get money in, and then how do you control the money that goes out? And we'll start with getting money in, because for a lot of us, that has been the thing that has changed over the last couple of weeks. We're going to start with help for employees. So this applies to you if you are employed by a company or were recently employed by a company and you're paid through payroll, so you're on PAYE. I'll come on to help that's available for self-employed and freelancers in a bit, but we'll start with those of us who are already employed. Okay, let's start with the worst things that could be happening right now, apart from health. Are you at risk of losing your job, or have you been put on reduced hours? I know that a lot of people, their companies are going through difficulties. Maybe you work in the event space or in restaurants or hospitality, and those businesses have just found themselves having to shut completely. You can't work from home. So literally almost overnight, those businesses are now unable to make any money, and they've had to either let go of a lot of people, or they're at risk of letting go of people, or they're having to put people on either 50%, 80% reduced hours. If this applies to you, then you may have heard that the government has set up this coronavirus job retention scheme. And what this means is that your employer, if they keep you as an employee, then they can get money back from the government through HMRC, and they can get up to 80% of your monthly salary. So the whole point of this is that it's for companies and businesses who might otherwise have to let people go. The aim is that they can keep hold of their employees for a few months just while things settle down, and then they can start trading again when we're in better times. So the way that it works is, not all the detail hasn't been completely ironed out yet because it's brand new. It was only announced at the end of last week. But the basics are that you can get 80% of your salary effectively paid by the government. It's capped at a maximum of £2,500 per month. So what that really equates to is, if your salary for your job is £37,500 or less, then this is effectively, you're going to be paid 80% of that. If you earn more than that per year, then you're going to be taking less income in. So you are going to have less money coming in than you otherwise would. So again, that threshold is £37,500 would give you, that's going to be like you getting 80% of your normal salary. If you get paid more than that normally, then I'm afraid that it is going to represent a pay cut for you. Now, that 80% gets reimbursed to your company. So some companies, some businesses are struggling right now, right? They're struggling because they've lost their clients and they don't have any revenue coming in. And so some companies may be looking at this and thinking, well, hang on, we can't even afford to pay payroll in the time it's going to take for HMRC to reimburse us. If that's your company, if your company is really struggling now and they're talking to you and saying, look, we might have to let you go because we can't even wait for this to come in, then I would recommend that you tell your company that they should look to apply for one of these coronavirus business interruption loans. These are already up and running. If you go onto the British Business Bank's website, you can see which lenders are making these loans available, and your company just needs to apply for one of these loans. They're interest free, they can last for up to 12 months, and they can be done quicker than the retention scheme can be put in place. So if you're working for a business that is saying, look, I'd love to keep you, I'd love to do this 80% thing for you, but we can't even hold on to you until we get that, then please ask them to apply for one of these business interruption loans to tide them over so that then the retention scheme can kick in. I'm going to go through a lot of these things and then I'm going to take questions when we get to a natural break point, but please put them in and I promise I'll get to them. So that's if you are at risk of losing your job. And what the government's going to do is they're going to backdate it till the 1st of March. What we don't know is what happens for people who will let go, say, at the end of Feb or before 1st of March. We're hoping that the government is going to include those people in the job retention scheme so that even if you were let go and it was temporary, your employer can rehire you and then they can apply for the 80%. But we're not sure. The detail hasn't been fully worked out, so we're not sure yet, but we'll update our website with the details once we know. Now, what happens if you've completely lost your job? So as I say, if it's a temporary job loss and your employer can rehire you, then the job retention scheme might apply. So you might be okay under that. If not, if you were let go and the job retention scheme doesn't apply to you, then you're going to be generally in a redundancy situation. And what you get in a redundancy will depend on a couple of things. Have you been there for 2 years? If you've worked there for 2 years, then you can get statutory redundancy. If you've been there for less than 2 years, then I'm afraid statutory redundancy wouldn't apply. And the best thing that you could do would be to make a benefits claim as soon as possible. If statutory redundancy does apply, then the amount that you get paid depends on how long you've worked at your employer and what age you were at the time. We've got all of that information on our site. So rather than me kind of spelling that out to you now, I'll signpost you at the end of this talk. So if you're in a redundancy situation, the amount that you're going to get is going to depend on how long you've worked there and what age you were at the time that you worked there. Unfortunately, statutory redundancy is not a huge amount of money. So if you are in a redundancy situation, again, I would recommend that you start looking at what benefits are available to you now. And we'll go on to explain how you do that. Okay, so next one. What happens if you are still employed? So you're still getting your salary right now, but what happens if, for whatever reason, you get sick with coronavirus and you're unable to actually do the work? So the first question to find out from the company that employs you is, do they offer any form of enhanced sick pay? So quite often in your contract, it will tell you, if you get sick, here is how much your employer will pay you for the time that you are sick. So checking your employment contract would be the first thing to do. Some employers will continue to pay you your normal salary if you're sick for up to a certain number of weeks. And that's going to be more generally than you would get under statutory sick pay. If you don't have any enhanced sick pay, if your employer's not going to be paying you your normal salary, then you go down to statutory sick pay. And at the moment, that is £94.25 a week, which for some people is going to represent quite a drop in income from what you're used to. Now, it used to be that to get statutory sick pay, you had to wait 4 days from when you became sick. Now they've reduced that to day one. So if you stop being able to work because you're sick, then from day one, you can apply for this. And you get it through your employer. You get it paid in the normal way that you would get your PAYE salary through payroll. And normally all you have to do is to notify your employer that you're sick, that you can't work, and that you would like to get your sick pay. And then they will process it through payroll for you. Some employers are going to ask you for a notice, so for confirmation that you are actually sick, and you can get that through NHS 111 online. We have all of the links on our site, so I'll direct you to those at the end. And it's very quick and simple. You just fill out a form and then you hand that to your employer, and then they will process your sick pay through payroll in the normal way. So you would get it, if you normally get paid weekly, you'd get it paid weekly through payroll. If you normally get paid monthly, you would get it paid monthly in the normal way. Finally, what happens if you can't work because everything has been shut down, we're all in lockdown, you're not one of the essential workers, but the nature of your job means that you can't work from home. It's not possible to adapt your work to be able to do it from home. In that situation, again, what we'd suggest is that you tell your employer to put you under the job retention scheme. Now, the important part about that is that you are effectively become what's known as a furloughed employee. So you're no longer actually working, you're sort of put on leave for this time, but it allows the government to pay you that 80% that we talked about before. I'm going to pause here to see if there are any specific questions that people have on this as we go. A second. So somebody has asked, what is the process for applying for loans? So that would be the loans that employers have to apply for if they're looking basically for something to bridge the gap so they can make payroll, so that they can afford to keep you on whilst they're applying for the job retention. So apparently it's a very straightforward process. Every lender is going to do it slightly differently. But if you go onto the British Business Bank's website, if you Google British Business Bank coronavirus, you'll see a list of the lenders who are making these loans available. You just go onto their websites. Most of them are doing it online. Some of them have phone lines. You can imagine that they're all trying to get up to speed as quickly as possible. So have a look at the various lenders. Some of them will be your own bank. So if you run a business and you're banking with the likes of HSBC, Barclays, etc., they will be making these business interruption loans available to businesses. So get in touch with them. The phone lines are incredibly busy at the moment, so do be patient, do keep trying. And then all of the criteria. So basically, it's open to every business as long as you are turning over less than 45 million. So the idea being that it's intended to support smaller and medium-sized businesses rather than huge businesses. And the criteria apparently is very fair. You just need to give them details of things like the amount of revenue, what your costs are, and then they will just check that you're eligible and take you through the process. But I've heard that they've tried to make it as straightforward as possible because they know that people need these to be in place really, really quickly. Again, they haven't said how quickly they can process them. Again, as you can imagine, they're trying to do things as quickly as possible, but we don't know yet what the turnaround time is. So it's something that you'll need to ask the individual bank how quickly they can get it to you. I would recommend, if you can, going to a bank where you're already a customer, because they'll have so much of the data that they're going to need from you already on record. So have a look, see if it's already your own bank. Somebody else has asked the question, do you get 80% of your gross or net pay? Again, it's a detail that hasn't been completely finalized. HMRC are trying to work it out, but we assume that you will be taxed your both your standard PAYE tax plus your national insurance, but we're waiting on confirmation. But you should assume at this point, until we hear more, that you will be taxed on it. So again, for those who are higher earners, you are not going to be getting anywhere near as much as you expect. So I would be recommending to you to see if there are any top-up benefits available to you. Okay, let's talk about benefits. So I read today that in the last week, more than 500,000 of us have applied for benefits. And I think there's going to be a lot of people listening, and a lot of us who perhaps have never applied for benefits, or if we have, it's a long time ago. We don't really know how to do it. We don't know what we're eligible for. It's completely new for us. I guess one thing I would say is, if 500,000 of us are applying for them right now, that means that there are many, many people in the same situation as us. So if you have any feelings of shame or worry about applying for benefits, please don't. They are set up to help us. This is exactly the type of situation that they are designed for. Please bear in mind that, of course, it does mean that processing times are going to be a little bit slower. I think they had over 100,000 people apply for universal credit just yesterday. So please take your time. Again, at the end, I will signpost you to the phone numbers, to all of the links where you can apply. It will take you a little bit of time. Again, we're not sure exactly how long it's going to take them to process them, but they are adding resources all the time to get more of these claims processed. So please just try and bear with it. I know that we're all in a horrible situation, but they are doing what they can to try and get things processed as quickly as possible. I would suggest that if you don't know where to start, go to a website called entitled2.co.uk. The link is on screen now. That has a brilliant benefits calculator that they have updated for coronavirus. So that will walk you through what you should be entitled to. If you want to just go straight into applying for one type of benefit, then universal credit is the one that most people will be eligible for. There is a 5-week assessment period generally for universal credit, which means that when you apply, it takes 5 weeks on average for you to be approved for it, for them to assess your claim. That's going to be too long for most of us. So what you can do is request an advance payment. So as soon as you verify your identity with them as part of the process, you can request an advance payment, and that can happen hopefully within a matter of days. Again, with the volumes, we're not sure exactly what the turnaround time will be, but it's going to be a lot quicker than the 5 weeks you're going to have to wait. And so what happens is they will make a payment against your ultimate claim. So whatever the amount is that they think that you're entitled to, they'll give you that month in advance, and then you would pay that back over a 12-month time period, or you can pay it back quicker if you choose to. Most people do it over 12 months so that it doesn't add too much to their payments. The link is on screen for how you apply for universal credit. When you do it, you can do it all online. I'd recommend trying to do it online if you can, because the phone lines are just so busy at the moment. What you're going to need to be able to do it is details of your household income, details of how much savings you have. Now, savings is an important one because a lot of people who are going to be applying for universal credit are going to be applying for it because we're self-employed or we're freelancers, and all of a sudden all of the work that we had has disappeared, completely fallen off a cliff. Now, one of the things they're going to have to work out as part of the package for self-employed people is, generally when you apply for universal credit, if you have savings, then that is deducted against your claim. So if you have under £6,000 of savings, then it doesn't impact your universal credit claim. If you have between 6,000 and 16,000 in savings, then certain deductions are made against your claim, and that will show up when you go through the claims process. Unfortunately, if you have more than 16,000 in savings, then you're not eligible for universal credit. Now, there may be people on this call who have generally hefty tax bills to pay. Maybe your self-employed business makes quite a lot of money and your self-assessment tax bill is large, and you've been putting money aside for that, and you could have potentially 16 grand sitting aside, which isn't technically savings but would count as savings for universal credit. So if you're in that situation, you're probably going to need to speak to a universal credit claims advisor about how you deal with that, because technically that's money that's earmarked for taxes. So that's universal credit. There are also additional benefits that you can get alongside universal credit. One is job seekers allowance. That is for people who are trying to find work. Again, we're not exactly sure how that's going to work in practice, given that there is not much work available for people. And then the other one is ESA, Employment and Support Allowance. Generally, that's for people who have difficulty because of either disability or chronic illness, and it means that they are restricted in the number of hours that they can work. I'd recommend that your starting point is probably through universal credit, but be aware that there are job seekers allowance and employment and support allowance available to you. Again, I'll signpost you to the link so you can take a look and see whether that would be worthwhile for you. And as I said, the entitled to calculator is very good at indicating which of these three main benefits you would probably be entitled to. And then there's another angle which a lot of people don't know about, and that is that if you are in hardship and your universal credit application is going to take a while, then you should look up what your local council offers in terms of benefits, because they do offer things like housing support, or they can offer payments which are sort of smaller lump sum payments, maybe £50 or £100, that you can pay towards food, towards energy bills, things like that, things which are more sort of one-off things where you need help right now, and they can make those smaller sums available. So if you are in that situation, then again, please do get in touch with your local council, because they do have various schemes available to people in the local area, and they'll be able to tell you what's available. I'm just going to pause there and see if anybody has questions on benefits, because I think that's a big one for a lot of us. Help for freelancers and self-employed. Okay, now since writing this up, I actually saw today that the government is supposed to announce a help package for self-employed people and freelancers tomorrow. Now, we don't know exactly what it's going to say. We think that it might be similar to the 80% job retention package that has been created for PAYE. What's difficult about self-employed is that although we all report self-assessment, the government has no way in the interim of working out how much we're all making month to month. So they find out at the end of the year how much we're making, but they don't have the same transparency as they do through PAYE on what everyone's actually getting. So while some self-employed people are struggling right now, some businesses are actually doing okay. And the government's just trying to figure out, how do we work out who needs help and who doesn't. Now I'm hoping that they're going to take a sensible route and are going to just make this available to everybody, but we will know more tomorrow. The Chancellor is expected to give more detail tomorrow on that, so just hang tight. At the moment, whilst we work out what's happening, some of you may prefer to claim benefits, at least for now, right? It may be worth you putting in that application in the meantime until you see what the other options are. You can always withdraw it once it's been started. So if you're not sure, I'd recommend looking into what you could claim in terms of benefits, start pulling that all together, start making your application until we know more. One thing that has been interesting is if you are self-employed through your own company and you pay yourself through PAYE. So a lot of people pay themselves partly through dividends if they run a company, partly through PAYE. There is suggestion that you could put yourself on furlough and then pay yourself the 80% on the job retention. Now that has been suggested by a few people but hasn't yet been confirmed by HMRC. It should be possible, but if you are thinking of doing that, you know, if your salary that you pay yourself through your limited company is going to be enough that that makes sense for you, then I would check that with HMRC and see if you can do that. The other thing that is available if you are self-employed or freelance is that you can defer your tax payments. Now, this might not be a huge amount, it might be small comfort for many of us, but you don't have to pay this month, you don't have to pay June's VAT. If you have corporation tax that is due, you can defer that, and any other business taxes that you pay. Again, speak to HMRC if you can. There is an HMRC hotline that you can speak to. Again, very busy at the moment, but worth trying if you can. Again, I'm going to send all of these details through so you have everything in one place. But definitely look at deferring your taxes as much as possible, because that is money that you can keep in the business and then pay to yourself. And then if you are freelance or self-employed as a sole trader, the second self-assessment tax payment that's normally payable in June or July has automatically been deferred until January 2021, so you don't have to pay that. Apart from that, this is where we're at, and this is why there's been such an outcry for people who are self-employed, because at the moment the only things we have going for us are that we can claim statutory sick pay, which gives us the £94.25 a week, and that's obviously vastly different from PAYE employees being able to get potentially that full £2,500 a month. So I'm really hoping that what we get tomorrow is close to that for self-employed people, but we won't know. But please do check the Lifetise site tomorrow, because we'll have details of whatever is announced up on site. Okay, that's money coming in. What happens if you have money going out? And a lot of us are going to be in a situation where we're looking at the fact that either we're struggling with jobs, we're struggling with income, but what does that mean for us in terms of the payments that we have to make out in the normal course of our lives? So we're going to talk about, I'm trying to talk about like, what are the biggest ones, which are the ones that really make a huge difference to affordability in our lives. And the key one for most people is mortgage payments and rent payments. What we have is a situation where if you are a homeowner, then you can ask your bank if you can take a 3-month mortgage payment holiday. So effectively, that would allow you to stop paying your mortgage for up to 3 months. You don't have to take the full 3 months. You can also speak to your bank about maybe just reducing the amount of mortgage payments that you make for the next little while. And again, because all of this is brand new, each bank is trying to work out what they're doing. They're working out exactly what offers they're making available to their customers. They're working out exactly how you apply for it. So I would say again, phone lines are very, very busy. Check online if you can about what information your bank is making available to you. But generally, the options are 3-month mortgage payment holiday or reducing the amount that you pay. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that isn't the bank saying to you, okay, you don't have to pay those 3 months ever. Unfortunately, you are still going to have to pay that back at some point. It's just giving you a little break. And so the way that we expect it to work with most banks is that they will let you take the 3 months off or pay a reduced amount for the 3 months and then add whatever's remaining to the total that you owe. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that what that will do is mean that you're going to have to pay interest on that total amount for a little bit longer. So it's going to effectively extend the term of your mortgage by another 3 months. And so for some people, that is going to mean, for most people, unless you're due to pay off your mortgage very quickly, for most people that's going to mean that the total amount that you have to repay over the whole 25 years, 15 years of your loan will increase, because you're going to be effectively pushing that 3-month payment holiday over the rest of the time of your mortgage. So you can expect to pay possibly up to a few £1,000s more in total over the lifetime of your mortgage. So what I would say is that if you're thinking of taking this mortgage holiday, only do it if you need to, because you are going to be paying more in total over the total life of the loan. So it's not something to just be done lightly. It's something to be done if you actually need it. And then if you are renting, so renting feels like it's less certain. We don't automatically in the UK get a 3-month rental holiday. So you're going to have the conversation with your landlord. And on the Lifetise site, I have put a suggested template that you can use if you're emailing or speaking to your landlord about asking them either to reduce your rent or for giving you a payment holiday. Now, if landlords are able to get the payment holiday for banks, then I would hope that they would be willing to give you a payment holiday. But unfortunately, it's something that you're going to have to negotiate on an individual basis. But I've given you a template that should hopefully make that conversation a little bit easier for you to have. What about debts? I know a lot of us are already in a position where we're trying to manage various debts. We've got car payments coming out, we've got credit card debt, we might have loans. So what can be done in that situation? Okay, the first thing to talk about is actually overdrafts, because from 6th of April, overdrafts change, and you're going to be potentially paying 40% interest, which is double the average amount of interest on credit cards. So it's suddenly huge. So I want to avoid people accidentally getting into more debt because you're using your overdraft and going over your overdraft limit, and all of a sudden you're getting charged 40% interest on that. So if you are in your overdraft, if you're regularly in your overdraft, if you regularly go over your overdraft, if you think that this situation is going to cause you to go into your overdraft, then please get in touch with your bank. I know that some banks, I know HSBC is offering a £300 buffer, so they're increasing the amount of your overdraft just so that you don't go over your overdraft. So you really want to avoid going over your overdraft. So please speak to your bank about increasing the limit of your overdraft so that you never get these interest charges applying. If you have any loans outstanding, if you have credit cards, again, speak to your provider about taking a payment holiday or about them not charging you interest for the next 3 months. So if you can make your minimum repayments, great. But if you can't, please do speak to the banks. They are definitely willing to help you manage debt for the next little while. So please have a chat with them and find out what they can do for you. If you have credit cards, then see if you would be eligible for a 0% credit card just to tide you over. See if you could do a balance transfer so that any existing balances where you're paying a higher rate of credit could come down to 0% again, just to give you that breathing space for a while. You can go on Money Saving Expert, you can go on Money Supermarket and just see which banks are currently offering a 0% card at this time. And if you're really struggling with debts, if you're worried about what the next few months is going to do in terms of your current debt position, then please look at the advice that stepchange.org has on its website or get in touch with them and they can help you work out payment plans with creditors. They can help you potentially reconsolidate your debt so that it makes it much easier for you. I'd recommend, I know there's a lot going on. I know that we're all juggling loads of different things. If you can, I would suggest that you try and get on top of the debt situation as quickly as possible so that A, any existing debt doesn't get any worse for you, but also B, that it doesn't affect your credit score, because the last thing I would want is for anybody to get into a worse situation now that then affects them in the future when everything is settled down. Okay, this seems like a small one, but actually could be huge for some people. Cancel anything that you don't need right now and that you can get out of. And this literally means going through all of the services that you currently have and just getting rid of anything that you're not going to use and you can't afford for the next 3 to 6 months. And anything where you can get out of the contract, do it, because we don't know what things are going to be like over the next little while. And actually, it's better to get rid, and you can always resubscribe. You can always re-sign up to the gym. You can always resubscribe to some of the services that you get. So cancel anything that you can, just to, again, relieve some of that pressure. See what you can do in terms of getting a refund on childcare costs. Now, for most of us, after mortgage and rent, childcare costs are our biggest expense. For some people, they're bigger than mortgage or rent because childcare is so expensive. So given that everybody is now having to stay home, if you're not an essential worker, then see what refund, if you can, you could get on childcare costs, because that could be quite a large amount of money that you would get back. And again, it's very difficult for those who are in the business of offering childcare services. But as an individual, if you are able to get money back, that is going to put you in a better position. Similarly, if you pay for rail fare, tube tickets, bus fares, whatever your travel costs are, if you pay for those in advance, then you may be entitled to get a refund on them. So have a look, see what your train or company is offering, see what TfL is offering, and put in an application to get that money back. And then finally, I know a lot of us are going to be worried about energy bills. See if you can switch to a different supplier, so you can go on USwitch and see if you can get cheaper deals on your energy and other bills. If that's not possible and you're worried about being able to pay your bills, then please speak to your energy or other provider and see what they can do for you. You are not going to be the only person who's getting in touch with them. So they should have packages available. They should be able to help you. If they can't, tell me about it and let's see what we can do. Now, I know it sounds trite, but actually, I just wanted to say something that was a little bit reassuring after all of this. we are, most of us, having to stay home. We are, most of us, not able to do very much. That means that you're going to be spending less in terms of discretionary spending. So you're not able to eat out in the same way, you're not able to go out. So that will mean that your outgoings are going to be less than they would otherwise normally be. So when you're thinking about, oh God, I don't have enough money, I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay for everything, again, just remind yourself that actually your outgoings over the next couple of months will probably be very different from what you have normally, because actually we're going to be in a situation where we can't spend in the same way that we normally would. So there, your income may be lower, but also your outgoings will probably be lower. And a lot of these major outgoings, rent, mortgage, energy bills, etc., there should be something that you're able to negotiate with your provider to be able to make that a little bit less difficult for you. I'm going to take questions, but I just wanted to say to people that in addition to the advice that we're making available on our website, we're also offering people free financial health checks. So I know that me going through a lot of this information, it's a ton to take in at once. And for a lot of people, it's going to be a case of, okay, that's nice, but I don't actually know exactly how to apply that to my own situation. I don't really know where to start. I don't know where to look for all of these things. If that is you, then we are very happy to walk you through the process. We'll ask you for a limited amount of information so that we can signpost you to the financial support that is most available for your situation. So if that's something that you would like, it's completely free of charge. We're doing it because we're aware that this is quite an overwhelming time for all of us, and there's just a lot of info out there, and it's not always clear on how to apply that to our own situation. So if that's you and you would like a financial health check, I need to explain, we are not financial advisors, so we can't help you with anything around pensions or investments or anything that is regulated advice. But what we can do is help you work out where you should start, how you can apply for certain things, where you need to look for various information. And if you would like that, then all you need to do is just drop us an email at hello@lifetise.com, and we'll get back to you and just book you in for a slot and tell you what information that we'll need. It's all completely confidential, and as I say, it's completely free. So if that's something that you would like, then please do get in touch with us. I've raced through this. I appreciate that you probably have questions. So I'm going to take Q&A now. So if you do have a question, let me know through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Somebody has asked, would I suggest changing broadband provider? That's a really interesting question. And the reason that I think it's an interesting question is because it's going to depend on what you need, right? So there's going to be like a cost benefit thing that you're going to have to weigh up, because right now, I actually think so. I'm currently with Virgin, and all things considered, I think they've done a really good job at keeping my Wi-Fi up and running. So yes, if you need to switch provider because of cost, absolutely do it, right? If you are with a provider that is good, they've been really reliable, you rely on Wi-Fi speeds to do your work so that you can get paid, then you might want to stay with that Wi-Fi provider. That's just my thought on that. And then somebody has asked about insurance. Now, interesting, car insurance. So do you need to keep car insurance if you're not running your car? Speak to your insurance company on that, because it's going to depend. And what I would hate is for you to cancel any insurances and then you find that you actually need cover, and it costs you more to then reapply. So with all of these things that you're canceling, look at get in touch with them and say, look, if I cancel and then I come back, can you promise me the same terms? And can you promise me that it's not going to impact me in any way? So for things that are like low level subscriptions, right? If you have 4 different TV packages, but actually you can just rely on Netflix, get rid of the others. If it's a gym membership that you know that you're not going to use, then get in touch with the gym and say, look, I'm going to have to put this on pause right now, but can you promise me that when I pick it up, you're not going to penalize me, you're not going to charge me any extra, because I do want to rejoin. So for things where you definitely are going to need it again, get in touch with them and see what you need. And insurance is an important point, and it reminds me that it's something I haven't mentioned. Some of you will have insurance either through your employer or that you have taken yourselves, and whether that is income protection insurance or critical illness cover, something like that, which may cover you for any loss of income during this time period, right? Some of it will only apply if you are incapacitated because you get the coronavirus. Some of it may only apply in certain situations like now, where we're in a lockdown and it's the government mandated lockdown that means that you can no longer provide the services and you've lost all of your clients. So check. So if you are employed, check with your HR team if you have any type of insurance that could cover you during this time period. If you yourself have got life insurance, health insurance, whatever it might be, get in touch with your provider to see what they are offering and to see if they can help you with anything. One caveat to that is that insurance companies don't always pay out. So it will depend on your policy, but it's definitely worth you getting in touch with them to see what it could cover. Somebody else has asked a question, do I have to close my business to apply for job seekers? That's a really good question. Generally, job seekers, that will depend. Get in touch with them and see if they're making any changes to how they're approaching this for people who are only applying because they're having to effectively mothball their business. Generally, the rule would probably be yes, but if you are literally just saying I just can't work under my business for the time being, but I want to be able to pick that up in the future, then they may be willing to change the rules for it. So again, it's just a case of getting in touch with the DWP and seeing if they're relaxing some of the rules, which they are seemingly willing to do at this time. Does anybody have any other questions? Have I covered everything? Is there anything that you'd like me to go over again that didn't make sense, that you didn't get to see on screen? Just let me know. We have a couple more minutes before the end. As I said, I will send you all details of everything that we've covered today. I'll send you a copy of the presentation plus some additional notes so you have access to all of the links that I talked about and to the advice that we've got on the Lifetise site. A recording of this video will be available, and so you can watch it back if you want to. So yeah, any final questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up in a second. I really do appreciate you all joining. I know that we are all feeling quite stressed. I hope this has given you just a tiny bit of reassurance that there is help out there. I do know that it's going to take a little while for us all to get everything in terms of claims that we need to make, in terms of the banks making things available. Just know that the help is out there and more should be available tomorrow for self-employed people, and you're not alone. We are all trying to figure this out together, but we will get there. And if anybody has any questions, again, the hello@lifetise.com com is the best email to get us on. So if you do have any final questions, then please don't hesitate. We are here for you. We're very, very happy to help in any way that we can. And as I said, if you'd like that individual financial health check so that we can walk you through things on an individual basis, then please do get in touch. I hope you have a nice evening. I hope you all have some nice food at home. I hope you all get to do something relaxing and take care of yourselves and one another. And thanks so much for joining.